Hello, welcome back to semester number 2 of school and marketing in particular. We have an interesting start, and I love how where this class goes, and we start really talking about what I think is the essence of marketing and those decisions we really make in business that can impact whether or not we sell something. So we're starting that off with pricing, and that's what chapter 5 is all about. And if class went in the correct order, you watched the video on the gap, and one of the things they talk about how is an adjustment in price fixed some of their selling issues. So we're going to jump right into this, and pricing is one of the 4 P's, and the question that this chapter starts with is, how do you think the other P's of the marketing mix affect pricing? So keep in mind what our other P's are: product, place, and promotion, and think about that as we listen to this. So we have a couple of objectives here. We're going to recognize the different forms of pricing, explain the importance of pricing, which I think is a little bit self-obvious because we all have experience in pricing at this point in time. We're going to list some goals of pricing, and then we're going to talk about market share and market position. So the heart of the matter here is that price is one of the 4 P's that we talk about that's part of the marketing mix. Many factors are considered when pricing a product, and in the next section, we're actually going to talk about some of the strategies that people come up with when they actually choose and make a price for a product. So not a lot of vocabulary, and as usual, we're going to go through it as we go along. This chapter does have some math in it, so I just want to set that expectation early on. It's not difficult by any means, and it is absolutely relevant to life in my opinion. I hear a lot of pushback about how we're not going to use any of this math in life. Well, this is math that you should use in life, and I'll go deeper into that as well. But what is price? Price has any number of names, and they are all listed here. When you are older, you're going to rent a home most likely before you have the money to buy one. That is a form of price. When you pay for a good or service, you buy your own actual house. A part of the money you pay is going to go towards someone's commission. That is price. When you buy a car, someone is usually paid commission. Wage, there is a price to having an employee in your business, right? You have to pay them a wage. You might also pay them a commission based on how much they do, or a salary and bonus. So you can see those here, right? Those are in relation and from the perspective of potentially someone owning a business. But when you buy products, some of the money we pay goes into these. When you go to school, you have to a college, you have to pay tuition. If you were going to Ivy Tech after this class, or in college after you're in high school, you would pay some form of tuition, which is why I always said this class has a dollar value to it if you're taking it from a dual credit perspective. Interest, when you pay on your loan, you pay interest. So all of these are different names and they're forms of price. Here is your formal definition of price: the value in money or its equivalent placed on a good or service. And the thought here, right, is that there's obviously a value towards everything we buy. Everything we buy is set by the marketplace, which says, hey, this is worth X amount. The price on a PlayStation 5 right now is over its usual cost because people are reselling them online. That's the value, right? That's there. As there's more and more people have them and there's less of a demand, you won't be able to sell your PS5 for $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever people are getting for it. The price will come back and the value will come down to where it should be. So price is that essential basis of commercial transactions, and the oldest form of pricing is the barter system, when people traded for goods or services because there was no equivalent currency to set values. So whether you traded food or something you made for food. That was the original form of price in our history. All right, scope and significance and goals of pricing. So the chart you have is connected, and I kind of deleted it in my slides because they're really more separate issues and they don't really tie together left and right. So the scope and significance, right? We talked about value and its equivalent in money, and then all the different forms of price. Now, we continue these two thoughts into the third one. Price affects your profit, right? If I can charge more of a price or a higher price, I can potentially make more money. However, at some point, right, the price is going to be so high that people aren't going to want to buy it. And my thought with this is, or I like the example of Yeezys, and what I used to say in the past is that no one would buy $400 sneakers. Little did I know I was not correct, but we can still use this example. Kanye West takes his shoes, and now they're $600, right? And now less people are going to buy them. And he might make more money and sell less units, or eventually he sells so few units that he doesn't make as much money as he did if the price was lower. And maybe that comes when he hits $800 or $1,000. And eventually you can price yourself out of the market where people are just going to turn to alternatives, and they'll go back and they'll buy more Nikes, or they'll buy Under Armour. They'll buy other shoes because they won't want to spend $1,000 on sneakers. So price affects the company's image and competitive edge. What that's saying is price is part of your brand. If you sell a product for really cheap, then that is going to be part of your image. You're the value, right, that people are looking for. Or if you're selling $400 sneakers, people believe you're putting on an image that says we are high end. We sell a top quality, top notch product. So think about it from this perspective. Well, here's my perspective, and I'll stick on shoes. Shaquille O'Neal has a line of shoes that he sells in Walmart. He also has a line that he sells through Reebok, through all of your traditional outlets. But his Walmart shoes, Shaquille O'Neal set out in 2015 to make shoes for kids that did not have enough money. They sell through Walmart, and I think the average price was $12 to $20 for a pair of Shaquille O'Neal sneakers. Now, he's setting the image that, hey, look, this is not super high quality. That was not even his goal. His goal was to make sure that any kid out there could have a pair of sneakers. His Reebok line is significantly more expensive, and they don't sell in Walmart. They sell through other channels that you would traditionally buy sneakers at. So switching over to goals, obviously we want to make a profit, and the way we calculate our profit is we take revenue, which is all of the money we make from sales, and then we subtract expenses, and that equals profit or loss. Now, if our revenue is higher than our expenses, we're going to have profit. But if our expenses are higher than our revenue, we're going to have a loss. Now, we don't go into too much detail in this class. If you are interested in that math or the additional details, because there is more than just revenue and expenses. We break down expenses, we break down revenue. We have a thing called cost of goods sold in here. If any of that interests you, there is an entrepreneurship class as well as the accounting classes we teach in this school, which kind of dives into the numbers of business. If you're going to take a business or get a business degree in college, you're going to go through all of this in detail at some point anyways. This is not where we really touch on this in marketing. What we will talk about is market share and gaining or losing market share and how we look at the whole market. But one of our goals with pricing might be to gain market share, and we might lower our price. That market share is what gives us loyal customers, keeps them coming back and buying our product. We're going to meet the competition. And what that means is we are going to price ourselves below or above them and where we see ourselves in the market in order to try and establish our market share. And then we'll establish a brand. And going back to how we impact our company's image and edge, that brand is going to be kind of what we live on, right? We live and die on. And that's how Apple thinks. Apple has established this amazing brand that you guys love and will pay exorbitant amount of money for new devices year on year, every year. Well, that sounded horrible. But yeah, every year you want to, if you don't, to buy a new device as the new iPhone comes out. So, some more definitions: return on investment, market share, and market position, and I got them all up here. So our return on investment, this is where our math in this section is going to take us, and we'll go a little bit more into detail on that today and or tomorrow if there's more time. But return on investment is a financial calculation that is used to determine relative profitability of a product. So I'll show you a bit about that in a second. And then a market share is a company's percentage of the total sales volume generated by all companies that compete in a given market. And if you want to think about it this way, and I'll use easy numbers, if the console industry is made up of Sony and Xbox, and we'll keep it simple, and it is $1 billion annually, and in this year, Xbox sold $500 million worth of product, and Sony sold $500 million worth of product. I'm keeping it even so that we don't have any Sony, Microsoft anxiety in the room about which one's better. But then we would say that each of those companies have a 50% market share. 500 and 500 million, add those together, we get our 1 billion, and they each have 50%. Your market position is the relative standing a competitor has in a given market in comparison to its other competitors. And talked about this at the end of last year's class, or last semester's class, where we talked about cars and how all cars are all in different market positions and what is their relative standing to each other. And where's BMW versus Kia, so on and so forth. All right, calculating return on investment. We'll do some more examples, but here is a quick one. We're taking profit and we're dividing it by our investment. So here's your example. One watch costs $30 to make and is sold for $50. Profit is 50 minus 30, and that's $20. We're taking our $20 and we're dividing it by our investment. Our investment is what it costs to make, and that is 0.66. We can multiply that by 100 and get 66%. So we have a 66% return on our investment in the watch, and there's a bunch of ways to to word this, and we'll do some of that tomorrow, I believe. So market share. Here's an example of market share, and this is among streaming devices, and you can see the most popular streaming device, and this is going back to 2016. So this is constantly fluctuating year to year, but right now it's Roku. Roku has 49% of the market, whether that is your little box on the side of your TV or the stick, so on and so forth, that people buy in order to gain access to Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple TV or any of the other offers out there. And that's so you can watch everything streaming. But this is the point being, this is their market share. They have half of the market, and this is done by calculating what everybody does, all of the sales done in this market, and then what is Roku's, and then dividing Roku's by the entire market in order to get this 49%. All right, so let's talk a little bit about price wars. Competition is good, and it forces companies to compete with each other. And one of the ways they compete with each other is through price. So we have a couple of perspectives here. We have a perspective for the customer, the consumer, and then this perspective for the business. So customer, consumer, what do we get when companies compete with each other and have price wars? Well, the obvious one, we get lower prices. The next one, we get innovation and new features, because companies are now forced to compete with each other. So they're always trying to come up with the next best thing, the next greatest thing that will benefit us as the customer or consumers. And then we might get things like different levels of service. And in my opinion, this is probably an incomplete list. You could throw a bunch more on here, like, hey, there's more employment, company has to hire more people. So think of this as just the beginning of this list, but make sure you know these 6. Different levels of service. We might have a silver, gold, and platinum type deal. For the business has increased expenses, right? They can't afford to make a phone every 4 years. They have to make a new phone every year in order to stay competitive. That money goes into R&D, and then they have to constantly market that phone because they are competing with each other. This, in turn, decreases profits, right? And it can go to the point of, well, hey, like we said, they got to hire more people in order to maintain their level of competitiveness. And then they really have to compete or lose. They could lose the entire business. Kmart and Sears couldn't compete anymore, right? They couldn't compete with Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart, and there was so many other competitors that they had to, and Amazon, they lost. They had to die. So leave this up for another second, and then we'll keep going. All right, the opposite of competing on price and price wars is non-price competition. And this is just some examples of what happens when there is non-price competition. So we have innovation, quality of service, including after sales, free upgrades to products, sales promotions galore, because we're not competing on price anymore, right? Now we're competing on things like sales and branding and exclusivity and loyalty and all these different promoting things that give a business its edge over the competition. So here's the question. What industries focus on non-price competition? This would be a good point to pause and talk about price and non-price competition. All right, we're back. Price planning issues. So, what is price and the relationship of price to its product value? If consumers believe they will gain a great deal of satisfaction from a product, they place a high value on the product, and they are willing to pay a higher price. At one point, no one was willing to pay $1,000 for a cell phone. Well, consumers believed that there was a great deal of satisfaction from an Apple iPhone that was priced at $1,000. And they were willing to then pay a higher price. But you, as a seller, must be able to gauge where a product will rank with its customers. So Apple knew. They knew from the get-go there was a risk here, but they knew that they could raise the price of their phones. And they took that chance and were incredibly successful with it. They have raised the price of phones and kind of are now, as a strategy, working in building in the rest of their market share and increasing their market share by offering phones at a lower cost. So, another example. 2 cars here, right? And this is a top of the line, brand new Toyota Camry, one of the most popular cars out there. And this is a used, I think it's a 2015 BMW M3. This might be my midlife crisis vehicle right there. Right there. That might be me. M3. You might be one of those guys, never driving fast, never taking it out in snow. But with my M3 in the garage, and why, I guess is the question. And what is the cost of this car? What's the price? And what is the price here? And think about it from perceived values. What does everyone perceive the value of this really nice Toyota Camry? How much should it cost? Versus this used BMW M3. And for those that don't know, the M line of BMWs is their high-end line with souped-up engines. Everyone's got a turbo in it. And they are just awesome vehicles. Stronger handling, bigger brakes, the whole 9 yards. So I had that discussion real quick, and next I believe I'm going to post the price of the BMW. So when ready, go. There it is. BMW 49,565. Toyota $25,000. So question is, did you value in your head, did you see the price of those vehicles? Were you close? Were you not? And if you didn't, it's not a big deal. Obviously not part of the test. It's more of just trying to get across the point that there are different values and we perceive different values for these two vehicles. All right, the importance of price. Why is price so important? Price, and I'll start over here, the obvious one. Price helps determine profits. Through price, we know whether or not we're going to make money. Advertising strategies are closely aligned to the company's image, right? I'm going to advertise based on my price. I'm going to have beautiful, amazing advertisements, and I'm going to target people that can afford my product. BMW doesn't target college students, right? Most college students can't afford a BMW. And then customers use price to make judgments about products and the companies that make them. If this BMW was $20,000, we would think a lot less of it than this Toyota. And I'm not saying we would think less of it than the Toyota, we would just think less of the BMW than we do at the $50,000 level. Oh, I love this example. All right. Throw a couple watches up here. So, different prices, and I love watches. So, we start at the beginning. This is a little digital watch, right? Looks like it has a rubber band, and it's $18, and it's waterproof tactical watch, right? And it's got some good reviews. $18 though. It's what you need to get into a watch. Here is a Michael Kors Slim Runaway watch, a little designer brand Michael Kors, $146. Some people are starting to say, wow, this one tells the time, this one tells the time, and they're already going, I don't need the Michael Kors watch. All right, and that's perfectly okay. That's what we do when we say price has that value. Now going over to this Bulova chronograph quartz watch, right? I can tell time. I can have my watch now has a stopwatch function on it. Still runs on a battery, right? Battery, all of these run on batteries. Move over to here. We have a Breitling Navitimer B01 chronograph. So what sets this watch apart from all of the others is that there is no battery in this watch. You do not have to take it in and have the battery replaced. Everything in here is mechanical, springs and gears and such that winds itself as you move your wrist. $5,800 for a men's piece of jewelry that is not made out of a precious metal, but is all just mechanical brilliance and just small parts put together to work properly, and is absolutely amazing. And some of you are going, that's the price of my used car. And yeah, I can tell you this is a very successful company selling $6,000 watches and up. So everyone is going to have their own opinions right now, but I figured I'd throw one more up there That is an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore. That is a women's watch with some diamonds and some gold, and that is priced at $42,000. And there's only one left in stock. Don't know how that happened. But my point with all of this is that there are different prices. We all have different values. We value things differently. And that price, that watch is, almost the same price as that BMW. Food for thought. What does the term value mean to you? And that's it. Hope this wasn't too long. Welcome back to school. It's good to be back. That's 25-1. Thank you.